Hi, and welcome to another installment of If It's in the Mind, It Can Be Managed, our podcast of getting down to how mind management is helping so many people. I'm not going to say changing the world. No, I am going to say it, changing the world. Of course, I'm going to say it. So we've got another one of our coaches who did the mind management training, is now part of our coaches that we help and support businesses and people all over the world. So let's welcome Natalia Christie. How are you, Natalia?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, Cuddy. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic, as always. So, Natalia, your specialized area, because of your experience, which I think is an important part, is trauma in the nervous system.
That's correct. Yes.
So
very
we're
much
going
in
to
love
ask
with
you
them.
questions.
Very much in love with them two topics.
So why are you in love with those topics of trauma and the nervous system?
I think mostly because of the amount of trauma I've been through.
And you say it with a laugh. Good on you. Well done.
It's my honest answer. I spent a long time feeling sorry for myself. Poor me. Didn't know why everyone was against me. The world was against me. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been some pretty horrific traumas as well. And we would call it big T traumas. There's a lot of them lining up. I think it's things, once I started knowing about my management and knowing about the different modalities that I could use and tools and strategies and techniques, and then I started growing spiritually as well and healing, I then realized that life happened for me, not to me.
Yes, we love that. I'm just about to do a quick course on raise your vibration, talking about the states of consciousness. And Natalia, I love the fact that you talk about that. That's brilliant. So tell us about how life now happens for you, and what do you mean by for me and through me?
So all the things that I've been through. So let me just give you a brief overview of some of the things that's happened to me in my life. So I was sexually assaulted at 8 years old. I had abandonment issues of not one but two dads who came into my life. I had a huge rejection wound, not good enough wound, not lovable. Had several narcissistic relationships, relationship breakdowns, a death of my middle son, cancer. I've had 2 bouts of cancer that I have come through that, yes, I did manage, the doctors did manage to catch it quite early. Redundancy, and there's been other smaller T traumas, that's what we would call it. So apologies if you can hear the dogs in the background. I kicked them out of the office because they were fighting, and now they decided to fight right outside the door. So
you know what's funny? It's all right. But I'll tell you what's funny is your dog's barking on yours has just set my dog off. He's now gone looking for your dogs.
Well, I've got 2 of them out there. They're both whining. They're both playing with the ball, and I've got one scratching at the door at this moment. And I started law that we come on to do a podcast, and they've now come up both outside the door to say hello. So I've lost my trail of thought now. So yeah, so I had all these things. I also had a really bad emotional breakdown to the point that I had wrote suicide letters to my kids. I don't know how it happened, or I thank God, universe, everyone really, that I wrote these really, really long letters. I mean, we were talking like 20, 30 pages long. They were very heartfelt, emotional. But by the end of writing these letters to my children and my mum, I fell asleep, and I woke up with the letters surrounding me. And I literally took the letters to the doctors. I was at the doorstep at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said, you need to help me, or I'm not going to be here within an hour. That was how much. That was 7 years ago, nearly now. And today, all the ebbs and flows and life roller coasters, I sit and cry, but I am smiling my best and living my best life at the moment. I really genuinely am in myself. And I think that is the hugest difference. So to me, trauma was so point in my life, and I got to such a pivotal point that I grew out of it.
Yeah.
And that's why trauma and resetting the nervous system. So learning that no matter what life throws at me and what lessons I learn from all the things that I'm going through or yet to go through, I know how to reset my nervous system. I know how to bring myself back to my home base, to my safe space, and I don't need anyone else to do it for me. And I don't need other people or approval. I don't need other people's opinions. I don't need their safety, because I can bring it all for myself. And I think that was one of the biggest things I learned, was that yes, it's lovely to have other people around me and love and connection and all that. And I'm not knocking any of that, so please don't think that I am. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was that I could do that for me, and I didn't need other people to do it for me.
I love that.
Yeah, they're my biggest reasons that I'm so passionate about trauma and the nervous system.
Brilliant. So how do you reset the nervous system?
So I use a multitude of tools. It will be even including the 2 nut jobs that are outside my door at the moment whining. It will be cuddling them, stroking them, sensory. One of the quickest ways is actually through your sense of smell. So yep. I will have scented candles, aromatherapy, incense sticks, anything that will I associate with calm and safety. They will probably be one of my first go-to things. Yep. Other things, it will be meditating. And when I talk about meditating, some people imagine I'm sitting there cross-legged going on, and it's not necessarily about that. It's literally being able to be mindful and present in as little as 2 minutes. I mean, I teach my clients, then when I hear, oh, I've never got time, well, what do you do when you brush your teeth? When you go to the loo, when you walk from one room to another, when you walk up and down the stairs, they're all moments in time that you can use to be mindful and meditate, because you don't have to meditate with your eyes shut. And I think a lot of people get confused by this. So walking meditations, for example, when I go and walk the dogs first thing in the morning, when I go and get in my cold plunge pool, or, you know, when I'm sitting at set of traffic lights, I will quite happily do some tapping, for example, on my collarbones, on areas where I touch. I use anchoring a lot. Mm-hmm. So for the people that don't know what anchoring is, I call it fill your happy cup up. Mm-hmm. So for me, I use my thumbs. One, I can hold it around the steering wheel and I can still touch it. 2, I can be sitting or standing with someone, and I know I've got my hands raised up at the moment, but they can be in my lap and no one can see that I'm doing, you know. So I fill my happy cup up. So I will think of memories or experiences that I've had, or it can be anything. Most recently, it was just the sheer fact that my granddad, who's in his 90s, came for tea with my mom. And since my grandma passed away, I'm trying to spend more and more time with him, because he's a huge part of my life. But we had a meal, and he's got a very dry sense of humor as my granddad, and his chuckling used to get him into trouble with my grandma all the time. So thinking of him makes me smile. So while I'm smiling, I'll be squeezing my thumb or stroking my thumb, and I'm associating my thumb with really, really good things. So if I try something new, for example, back end of last year, I just had a go at salsa dancing, and I got on the dance floor and I spent 10 minutes crying with tears streaming down my face, because I was so overwhelmed, because I could not get my feet to do what everyone else's was doing, and everyone else was seeming to me to get it and I couldn't. And I felt like everyone was staring at me and everyone was laughing at me, and I felt really uncomfortable. So I started tapping on my thumbs. and my body automatically associates that as a good thing. So that's another way to help reset your nervous system, is filling your happy cup up, is what I call it, and then activating it when you need it.
Perfect.
So that's another good one. As I said, going and spending time doing things that I really love. Paddleboarding, absolutely love it. I can go and take the dogs out with me on the paddle boards. It's utter chaos, absolute chaos. But because I've got one swimming round me like a shark, and I've got the other one chasing the one that's in the water and then occasionally falling in. So it's full of laughter and it's full of, oh my God, what am I doing? But again, it's things that fill and light me up. It's talking to people. It's helping my clients. They're all things that really light me up. Talking about something I really enjoy. I never shut up or breathe.
Do you think paddleboard is a metaphor of life?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think the reason it can be so tough going at times, and then all of a sudden, when you've got the wind behind you and you're not against the current, it can be such a breeze. Yeah, and I'm very much a water baby. I think very much.
I'm definitely.
You.
What star
Like,
sign are you? Just out of interest, what star sign are you?
Pisces.
I'm Cancer, so I'm definitely a water sign. I know that for a fact. So Pisces, right? Okay.
We're a
Brilliant.
fish.
Yeah. Couldn't be any more of a water sign, right? So when we say, like, is paddleboard an analogy or a metaphor for life? Because you couldn't paddleboard at the beginning, could you?
No. No, and I did have
panic
to
attacks
use...
when you were getting in the water and getting on the board, I remember.
Yeah. So I couldn't... I think one of the biggest memories was standing up. I found it really difficult, and in my head, I thought I would be able to get on water and stand. I mean, I've been standing on these 2 pins for nearly 44 years, and all of a sudden they let me down because it wasn't as easy as what I thought it was going to be. And I struggled and I cried on the rivers because I couldn't do it, and I really struggled. And one of the things that I have instilled and drilled into myself is that I am learning. I am learning. I am learning. I am learning. You wouldn't shout at a kid or a baby who's learning to crawl or walk, or so why would I berate myself learning something? So I think that was my biggest take from it. And the analogy for me is it takes time, it takes practice to build competence, to build confidence. But I use courage and bravery to take that first action. And that's where it comes from. It's that first action. You don't have to know what you're doing. It's not about perfection. It's about having the courage and bravery to take that first step. And the next one will uncover itself. And I have great faith in that.
Love it. I absolutely love it. So, by the way, brilliant. I love the courage and the bravery thing, and I think you're absolutely right about the paddleboard. It really, that's why I said the metaphor of life. You're not going to be able to do it when you first start doing it, such as life. And, you know, we've been talking to a lot of new coaches who are coming into it and thinking about wanting to become a coach, and they're like, well, do I want to become a coach, or, you know, we're going to have that judgment and all those things, that the language of fear that we create to stop ourselves moving forward. And I love how you said that. I was crying. I couldn't do it. It wasn't easy. And I started crying because that's the little inner child that comes out in us, right? It still happens to me every time me and Graham are doing something. I'm like, it should be easy. It's like, no, it's not. It's that nothing that we need in life is easy. Nothing that we should gain in life is come from ease, and it just doesn't. We have to set the right mindset as when it comes to coaching, mind management coaching, and getting those. It's not easy. It's a practice. It's a skill. It's a thing. And that's why we support all our coaches with that. That's fantastic, Natalia. So, Natalia, for you work with some amazing clients, and I love cold water therapy. So I don't want to turn this into a cold water therapy talk. So I would talk about that forever. And we did a training course last night, and I said my non-negotiable is I got to get in the water every day. I generally do it about 5 o'clock in the morning because I live very close to the sea, and I'm just like, there's some mornings when it's raining and drizzling. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, well, if I can do this, I can manage the rest of the day. There's nothing else in the day that's going to be worse than what I'm doing right now. So that's how I got into cold water therapy and stuff, and that's why I love it, and that's why there is a course on Udemy to helping people to become cold water coaches. But for you, as you've been talking, you did a talk for a group coaching for the Blue Tits.
I did, yes. I got invited to be the speaker at the 1 year anniversary for the Staffordshire and Cheshire Blue Tits.
Brilliant.
And I absolutely nailed it. No, I absolutely loved it. I really did. We did the palm technique. I absolutely love the palm technique. As I say, you know that I'm very much into self-love, self-care. It's one of the pillars of reparenting, which I do talk about in one of my courses.
Yep.
So we went through what physical associations we have, what attitude and attention are you paying on something, what the language you're talking to yourself and to others about, and what meaning are we giving it. We are meaning making machines. Yep. And it can be from the first time I was on a paddleboard on a river, to be honest, it was, I know we're going back to water again, but it's
fine, it's good, it's life.
My heart. The first time I went on the river, it wasn't the falling in and swimming, because I swim in rivers, but for some reason in my head it was all, you can't see the bottom, you don't know what's down there, and then all of a sudden it'd gone from that to drowning and dying. Like
that quick.
So quickly I had gone from the whole range of, and that was just kneeling on a paddleboard, you know. So we literally give ourselves, we put a meaning to something instantly, and the critic inside our heads is absolutely vile if you don't keep it under control. To me, I've heard about, I know you use like the monkey mind, and other people have like the bully between your ears and
Mary Denise.
Mary Denise. To me, it's like having two wolves, and it's like a good wolf and a bad wolf. Which one am I going to feed? You know, which one am I going to make bigger and stronger? To me, I want to make the good wolf bigger and stronger, and I don't want the bad wolf to be overpowering. It doesn't mean he's not there. It doesn't mean he's not in the background grumbling away at times. But I don't want him to be coming out at me. So I tend to feed my good wolf more so than, again, apologies.
Okay,
background.
Nope. I can hear the wolves in the background. If anyone's listening to this, we can hear your wolves.
Yes, my good wolves in the background.
That's absolutely fantastic. So now, when people have, I'm just about to do a podcast with another company got in contact and asked me to go and talk about trauma with their podcast. So I'm going onto a podcast called Rethinking Trauma tomorrow, actually. But when we're talking about trauma, there's a lot of fear about working with trauma. And I know I've worked with some clients with trauma. And so I remember Graham asking me, he was like, why is it you work with trauma? I'm like, because there's nothing to be scared about trauma. Because there's certain things that you want to be aware of, is that, first of all, they've come to us, so they're ready. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've asked my clients, are you ready to deal with it? As long as you're ready to deal with it, we're good to go. That's literally the opening line. So when you're working, why is it you feel comfortable working with trauma, Natalia?
Because I won't help anyone deal with the issues and underlying problems of trauma until I know that they're comfortable with resetting their nervous system. Because to me, if they can't reset when they start to feel uncomfortable, they're going to stay uncomfortable. And it's not about pushing them other feelings and emotions aside or not acknowledging them. It's that I need to know that they can bring themselves back to a baseline. I'm there to assist them. I'm not there to do the work for them. And the responsibility is theirs, not mine. I am there to help and assist them. But I know that I am comfortable with that in myself. I know that the tools and techniques that I use and the skills that I have work. And because I have ultimate faith in that, dealing with trauma doesn't, I can't say it doesn't faze me, because you do get emotionally involved.
Of course.
But I do know that it is theirs, not mine.
Yeah.
As my trauma is mine, not theirs.
Perfect.
So I don't feel uncomfortable any longer, but I think that's because I've embraced mine.
Yeah.
I don't hide from it. I'm not ashamed of what's happened in the past. It's made me who I am today, but I can still be a better version than I was yesterday. And that is really important to me, to relate to my clients.
That is, that's what I'm going to be talking about in the podcast, is the association. What keeps us stuck when people have gone through trauma is the association to an emotion, which will be shame, guilt. It keeps us vibrating at a lower resonation, and it keeps us down. And once we start releasing that guilt, the shame, the decisions we made about the trauma, the meaning that we've created about the trauma, we start elevating ourselves, we start raising our vibration. And people, what I've been working with is the second they release blame, because you're absolutely right about meaning, but we're also blame. We like to blame ourselves for where we've been and what we've done, because we always think we're quite self-centered. Everybody's quite self-centered. It's always about me. True, right, Natalia? Let's be honest.
No, it's very much true. Yeah. We turn the spotlight on ourselves so much that actually, if we turn the spotlight the other way, and what can we do to serve someone else? What can we do to help someone else? What can we do to aid them? Is there if we turned the spotlight and turned it back on, it's all of a sudden it's, oh, what do I look like? Are they going to like my hair? Are they going to like what I'm going to say? Are they going to like this? Are they going to like that? And that's not what it's about. If we walked into a room, you tend to get a, oh, okay. And that is it.
We can't hear them.
Do you know what I mean? No, but I was just like, you turn around, you walk into a room, and like everyone kind of like has a quick glance, and that's it. It's over and done with. And that's what you've got to remember in life. The spotlight isn't on us unless we put it on ourselves. And if we choose to turn the spotlight around and focus it on other people and helping other people, and what can we do to serve other people, we're focusing on our attention on someone else. So it's not on us. So I think that learning to turn the spotlight around is really critical. It's really important. It's key to helping us.
Yeah.
And we do make everything about us.
We do. We absolutely do. I remember learning that a long time ago, is that when it comes to especially like trauma and the process that people have to go through, there's so much blame and the accountability they hold themselves of being in that position, and it's hard to let that go, because there's so much help out there for people, whether it's mind management, whatever tools that people want to go through. But I think once people realize and appreciate that trauma is not life ending, it can be worked with, and it can help propel people moving forward. And I'm sure it's a Tony Robbins thing, if I'm honest, that what if the worst day of your life is actually the best day of your life?
Mm-hmm.
If you can look at it and retrain it, and a lot of people will be like, oh no, that doesn't make sense. But once you get to it, and I use that, my nervous breakdown years ago, it's probably about 15, 16 years ago. If I hadn't have had that nervous breakdown and that absolute mess of a 6 months I had in my life, it really was a disaster. I mean, it was horrible. Nearly lost my wife, nearly lost my job, nearly lost everything. I wouldn't be here doing, and I wouldn't say that was a trauma, to be honest with you, but I was like, if I hadn't had that, I wouldn't have gone on this learning journey and curve that we've gone on to be able to create the things and help the people we do. So sometimes we have to have that bad instance to help us grow. It's one of those
we need the experience and what we can take from it. But you're right, when you're going through it at the time, there's no way that you can see past it at that time. None. You're very much emotionally involved in it. And I think the other thing is, I didn't know who I would be without that trauma.
Yeah.
I didn't have an identity, or part of my identity was attached to each of them traumas, every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I think that was the other thing, is I was scared to let go because I didn't know who I'd be without them.
Yeah.
But no, I greatly believe that there's always something that we can take from it, even if it's the fact that we've become resilient, or we've become patient, or we've learned how to survive. They're all really good, positive things that can come from a really negative situation. And it's just taking people one little tiny step at a time.
Yeah.
I am a great believer in tiptoeing if you need to, but always move forward. There's nothing stopping you looking in a rearview mirror once in a while, but you don't need to focus on it, because that is the reason why that is smaller than your windscreen.
That's now the title of this podcast. It's okay to tiptoe, but at least you're moving forward. That's a good title, right?
It's a fab title. I love that. I use
so where can people find you, Natalia?
So you can find me on the Priority Mind Management website. You can find me on there. I am under I believe the coaches tab.
Correct. Absolutely.
You can find me on there. LinkedIn. I'm there under Natalia Christie. I have a Facebook group, which is actually called She's Got Your Back. And you can find it by typing in www.nccoaching.co.uk, and you'll find some tools and tips and strategies in there. As I said, you can also contact me via any other format. So my mobile number is on my work cards. It's plastered on social media. So is my email addresses. I'm sure there'll be a link below this podcast.
I will find one. Yes. Fantastic. Perfect. Right. Thank you so much, Natalia. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your light, of which we can often find gets dimmed as life is like a surfboard. The waves come and we've just got to keep holding onto the surfboard sometimes, whether it's a surfboard or a paddle board. We just keep moving. As always, get in contact with us at Priority Mind Management. Any of our highly accredited coaches are here to help and support you. As always, big love from Cuddy. And remember, if it's in the mind, it can be managed. That's what we're here for at Priority Mind Management.